How you doing? So good to see you. So good to see you. All of you are here. Thank you very much. John Thomas, thank you so much for the beautiful music. Thank you, John Thomas. Thank you. And welcome also to those of you who are watching on live stream. It's an honor to be with all of you. And before we do anything else, please introduce yourselves to the people who are around you, to your right and to your left, and in front of you and behind you. All right, you ready? All right, let's take a deep breath. We see in the middle of our mind a little ball of golden light. We watch this light as it begins to grow, larger and larger, until now it covers the entire inner vision of our mind. We see for ourselves within this light a beautiful temple. We see a garden that surrounds the temple and a body of water that flows through the garden. We see that the inside of the temple is lit as well by this same beautiful golden light. And here we are, for we have been drawn together by the power and in the presence of God. We devote our time spent together, all of our relationships and experiences of one another, to Him. And we pray that His most Holy Spirit be upon us, lifting us above and beyond the turmoil, the confusion, and the despair of this world to the endless love and peace that lay beyond. And so it is. Together, we all say, Amen. I'd like to begin by reading to you from lesson 252 from the workbook in A Course in Miracles. The Son of God is my identity. Myself is holy beyond all the thoughts of holiness of which I now conceive. Its shimmering and perfect purity is far more brilliant than is any light that I have ever looked upon. Its love is limitless, with an intensity that holds all things within it in the calm of quiet certainty. Its strength comes not from burning impulses which move the world, but from the boundless love of God Himself. How far beyond this world myself must be, and yet how near to me and close to God. Father, you know my true identity. Reveal it now to me who am your Son, that I may waken to the truth in you and know that heaven is restored to me. Tonight we're going to talk some very basic Course in Miracles principle. A lot of the words that I just used are words, of course, that you've heard before. Some of the words used in the Course in Miracles, a lot of them are very traditional words within the Christian religion. The Course in Miracles is not a religion. There's no dogma. There's no doctrine. It does use these very traditional Christian terms, but in some ways very differently. First of all, this whole idea of the Son of God. Well, you've all heard the line, there is only one begotten Son. The way many traditional Christians interpret the line, there is only one begotten Son, is to say that Jesus is the Son of God and no one else is. The way the Course in Miracles discusses the idea of the oneness of the Son of God, there is only one begotten Son, is to say that we are all it. There's only one of us here. When Michelangelo created a statue, welcome back. When Michelangelo created a statue, he would go into the quarry, and in his mind, the way he thought about it, God himself had already created the Pieta. God had already created Moses. God had already created David. And to Michelangelo, the job of the sculptor was to remove all of the excess marble around the perfect creation that God had already created. That, A Course in Miracles says, is the Son of God, that indwelling spirit within each and every one of us, created by God, changeless and indestructible. It is the truth of who we are. Now, Carl Jung, the Swiss psychologist, spoke of the collective unconscious and said if you go deep enough into your mind and deep enough into mine and deep enough into yours, that there are mental images or archetypes that we all share. The idea of the Christ mind takes it one layer lower, beyond just the idea that there are mental images within you that are the same as mental images within me. Rather, the idea is that if you go deep enough into your mind, which is the truth of who you are, that created self, and you go deep enough into your mind, which is the true you, or the created self, we share the same mind. So from a metaphysical principle, the idea of the only one begotten Son is that at the center of all of us is the truth of who we are, and in that space of the truth of who we are, there is only one of us here. Imagine a wheel and all the spokes on a wheel. You could identify the spokes according to their position on the rim, and if you do that, it looks like there are a whole bunch of spokes. But if you trace each spoke down to its originating point at the hub, of course, there is only one hub. There is only one point. So the Course in Miracles says that is who we are. That is the Son of God. Another name for that is the Christ. Now, Jesus, by the way, according to the Course in Miracles, is someone who has actualized that selfhood. And the Course in Miracles talks about the difference between the word self with a little s and the word self with a big S. When I was reading to you just now about your true self, it was S with a big self with a big S. So we all have the small self and we have the self with a capital S. Jesus and the Course in Miracles makes it clear that he is not the only one, but the Course in Miracles says he is one who has fully actualized that self. He says in the Course in Miracles, I am in a state which is potential within you. So like Michelangelo, our problem in the quarry, our problem is not that the perfect you does not exist. The issue is not that the Christ within you does not exist. Not only does it not exist, it cannot be uncreated, because what God created cannot be uncreated. The issue is that we have not, living on this earth, actualized the way the enlightened ones have the truth of who we really are. Notice the word enlightened. The Course in Miracles defines light as understanding. The enlightened ones are those who have come to understand fully who they are. Now, there's a reason why we are confused about who we are, and that is, the Course in Miracles says, because living on this earth, we are taught that we are not who we actually are, and we are taught that we are who we actually are not. And that is because, according to the Course in Miracles, the world in which we live, thus the human species, is dominated by a thought system which is 180 degrees away from the thinking of God. The thinking of God is love, love with a capital L. The Course in Miracles says God is an idea, and if you have a problem with that, it's because you haven't yet realized that you are an idea. The Course in Miracles says you are an idea in the mind of God. You not, as I said before, once God has created something, it cannot be uncreated. God's creations are changeless. So not only is the true self within you changeless, but also the true self within you, which is, there is no, with the Course in Miracles says one day you will realize there is nothing outside you. Notice lines like outside and inside both imply space. Time and space themselves are part of the illusion. You are in the mind of God, and because that is God's reality, you cannot separate yourself from God. Okay? So I've already talked about how the true you is created by God, the true you is changeless, and the true you cannot be uncreated. Next point, it cannot be separated from God. You are an idea in the mind of God. You cannot be separated from God. However, God is love. That is the truth of who you are. But being in the mind of God, being at one with God, God cause, you effect, God Father, you Son, God thought, you extension. There are many ways we could say these things, but you are an idea in the mind of God. God, the Course tells us, is all that is. And what is all-encompassing can have no opposite. God is love. If God is love, God is all-encompassing, God is all that is, and you are in the mind of God, what does that mean you are? Love. So your true self is love. That is who you are. Now, because God is all that is, everything that is true about God is true about his creations. And that's why the Course in Miracles says the only difference between you and God is that God created you, but you did not create God. Now, one of the aspects of God is freedom. Therefore, since God is free, you are free. God is thought, therefore you are thought. To say that you are free means you have freedom of thought or free will. That means that you can align yourself with the truth of who you are, i.e., you can be your true self in any given instant that you choose, because since you have free will, you are at choice. And at any given moment, you can extend your love. When you extend love, in Course in Miracles terms, you are co-creating with God. Now here's the rub. You don't have to if you don't want to. But what you do not have a choice about is the power of your thought. So every thought we think is either loving, i.e. co-creative with God, or is a deviation from love. Now, because God is all that is, what is all-encompassing can have no opposite. If you think without love, since love or God is all that is, when you're not thinking with love, you're actually not thinking. You are hallucinating. Now, since mind is so powerful, when you are hallucinating, it appears real. Some of you are smiling, I know. When you are not thinking with love, you are making, you are not creating. When you think with love, you're co-creating with God. When you think without love, you're not creating, you are making. And what is resulting is what Buddha and the Course in Miracles calls an illusion. It is a hallucination. It is the three dimensions. It is the world that the body's eyes perceive. It is the world that your physical eyes show you. It is the world that our physical hands touch. It is the world that our physical ears hear. But even though it is happening within a three-dimensional reality, once again, you have these little s versus big S, little r versus big R. The three-dimensional reality is an illusion of consciousness, as Einstein said, albeit a persistent one. Now, this does not mean that the illusion cannot be beautiful. It does not mean that the illusion cannot be part of the expression of God. This does not mean that the illusion is not holy. The realm of the illusion, or the three dimensions in Course in Miracles terms, is holy or unholy according to the purposes that the mind ascribes to it. So anything we do within the mortal plane for the purpose of love is used in service to God, i.e. love's purposes, and is a holy manifestation. You know the picture, the Michelangelo picture of the hand of God touching the hand of man, the Sistine roof, the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. That is a profound representation of how the Course in Miracles describes it. We can, within this world, take life to the highest level of thinking of which we are capable within this world, and God himself will lift us the rest of the way. Because the world in which we live is dominated, however, by a thought system which is separate from love. And this occurred in an instant, which I find fascinating because it really aligns with the theory of the Big Bang. The Course in Miracles says it happened in an instant. It's what the Course in Miracles calls a detour into fear. It's described at one point as the moment when the Son of God forgot to laugh. It was a moment millions of years ago in time as we know it, although, the Course says, in reality, it never happened at all because it was all hallucination, and still is. It was a moment in which we deviated from the thinking of love. But because we, being the sons of God, have the power of thought, we literally made a world. Now, the body, the Course in Miracles says, is a reflection of the belief that we have that we are separate from each other. In fact, the Course says, there is no place where you stop and I start. In fact, the spirit, which is the truth of who you are, does not remain encased within your body. So the truth of who you are extends beyond your body. The truth of who I am, you can call it the Christ, you can call it the Son of God, you can call it by many names, extends, and there is only one of us here. My physical senses tell me, no, you're over there and I'm over here, because my physical senses are reflecting the ego's thought system, which is both the originator and that which maintains the illusion of the three dimensions. But the ego is the belief that we are separate from each other. The ego is nothing other than a belief that we are separate from God and a belief that we are separate from each other. But belief is so powerful that it has made an entire world. Now, the Course in Miracles says, in reality, you're like sunbeams thinking you're separate from other sunbeams. You are like a wave in the ocean thinking you're separate from other waves. Because once again, no place where you stop and I start. But think about the difference in your emotional and psychological experience based on whether you think you're one wave in the ocean separate from other waves versus thinking you are one with the ocean. If I think that I'm one wave separate from all the other waves, how could I not feel terrified of the ocean? How could I not feel in any given moment I'm going to be obliterated by other waves? How could I not feel powerless? How could I not feel basically meaningless? I'm just one little wave in this entire ocean. On the other hand, if I think I'm one with the ocean, I move, it moves, I move. I mean, just think about it. Think about what the belief in separation does. So the belief in separation, the Course in Miracles says, on one hand, makes you feel powerless because it separates you from the belief in who you are. That's the issue, identity. Everything is about identity. We think we're one body out of billions, when in fact the Course in Miracles says your physical senses tell you that, but forgiveness, and once again, the word forgiveness is very different the way it's used in the Course. Forgiveness means that we are able to extend our perception beyond what the physical senses perceive to what the heart knows to be true. Enlightenment, the Course in Miracles says, and the Course does not claim a monopoly on truth. It claims to be one teaching based on universal spiritual themes. But all paths to enlightenment, the Course says, are an unlearning of the thought system based on fear and the acceptance instead of a thought system based on love. So in the workbook of the Course in Miracles, for instance, which is 365 days worth of meditation exercises, in the first half of the year, it's the dismantling of a thought system based on fear and the acceptance instead of a thought system based on love. Now, what is the key? What is the key to our ability to dwell not within the limited realm of the mortal illusion, but to dwell instead within the realm beyond this world? The world of this illusion is based on fear. And the cornerstone thought of the ego, which keeps us all in fear, is the thought that people are guilty. Why is that? Because if I judge you, if I blame you, if I'm pointing to your guilt, and we all make mistakes, so at any given moment, any of us could have someone point, that wasn't perfect what you said. That wasn't perfect what you did. Now, this is this is how insidious the ego is. My ego wants always, and the Course says the ego is like a scavenger dog. It is always looking for any shred of evidence of my brother's guilt. Why is that? Does my ego want to keep you in pain and anxiety? No. The ego wants to keep me in pain and anxiety. But this is the deal. Since there is only one of us here, whatever I think about you, I'm thinking about myself. So if I am perceiving guilt in you, you did this wrong, and you said that wrong, and you shouldn't have done this, and I don't like that you did that, and you victimized me that way. What it is a trick of my ego. Because as long as I identify you according to your guilt, by definition, I'm identifying you according to your not true self. Because your true self is eternally innocent. Your true self, just like mine, was created by God perfect and innocent. But you, like I, had been taught a thought system based on fear. So guess what? You get confused sometimes, and you don't know how to extend your love and get your needs met, just like me. But the point is not that you made a mistake. The point is that my ego wants to always focus on your error. Why? Because to the extent to which I see you only on the level of your body, because the level of your mistakes is the level of your body. The level of your innocence is the level of your spirit. So if I identify you according to your body, which I am, if I'm identifying you according to your mistakes, guess who else I'm only identifying according to the level of their mistakes? Me. So the Course in Miracles says, everyone you meet will either deliver you from the hell of the ego or put you into the hell of the ego, and that's what hell means. Hell is not after you die. Hell is the anxiety and depression and just upset and generalized despair that is inevitable when we attack each other. So the Course in Miracles says we become generous out of self-interest. So the ego is waiting for you to be perfect. That's what the ego's game is, and is always on the lookout for when another person isn't perfect. The spirit knows that my peace of mind will rest on my ability to know that you're perfect regardless of how you behaved. The only way we can be free of the pain of this world, and this is what Buddha said. Buddha said all pain, all suffering comes from attachment. We are attached to the things of this world. We're attached to other people's behavior being a certain way. We're attached to things happening the way we want them to happen. And of course, we're attached to things. But the Course in Miracles says there is no thing in this world which has deep enough roots to satisfy you. So no matter what you get in this world, all of the things that we think would make us happy will never be enough to make us happy, because the very belief that something will make me happy is by definition an expression of a false belief about myself. So the only way I could think, if I have this, I'll be happy. If I have that, I'll be happy. If I have this, I'll be happy. If I have that, I'll be happy. The Course in Miracles says the only way I could be thinking that is if I think that on some level I lack. Now remember, you're created by God. It's who you are is changeless. You are innocent. Guilt is of the body. Your guilt just means your mistakes. God doesn't want to punish you for those, but simply correct you. God would have us think the way God thinks, which is to have the same attitude towards other people. We are not terrible people who deserve punishment. We're people, all of whom simply make mistakes sometimes. But the mistake is not who we are. And added to that, the fact that you are complete and whole and you need nothing. So if I think that there's something in the world that I need to have and that will make me happy, by definition, the core belief is that I'm not enough already. So no matter what I manifest, it will never be enough. Because I could manifest all the money and all the relationship and all the stuff that my ego mind is telling me would make me happy, but it will never be enough if my core belief is still that I need something other than what I already have. Now the ego, remember, it sounds like, wow, the ego is really like saying a lot of things that are designed not to make me happy, correct? Absolutely. This is the deal. All thought is powerful. Thought that is loving is all powerful. Thought that is not loving does not have the power to create, but it has total power to make. And it is suspicious at best and vicious at worst. So when we wake up in the morning and we give our lives to God, this is not because of some goody-goody attitude. If you wake up in the morning and say, in whatever way you do, whatever form your meditation is, whether you're a student of the Course in Miracles or any other teaching, you wake up in the morning, if you're a student of the Course, where would you have me go? What would you have me do? What would you have me say and to whom? Is it because you're some goody-goody? Is it because you're hoping that then after you die, you will go to heaven? First of all, you don't die. Another thing we'll talk about, because what God creates is created eternally, and the body itself is just an illusion. So dropping the body, the Course says, is just dropping a suit of clothes. But all mind all thought creates form on some level. So heaven and hell aren't after you die. Heaven and hell are 15, 30 minutes. Because hell, it means, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. Oh my God, 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 they're ever going to forgive me for having done that. Oh, we go through hell all the time. And heaven is an awareness of our oneness. We've also had experiences with, oh my God, that was heaven. That was heaven. It was some situation where you experienced your oneness with someone else. Now, if you wake up in the morning, and as the Course in Miracles teaches us to do, you pray, where would you have me go? What would you have me do? What would you have me say and to whom? If I wake up in the morning and I know, do not go to the newspaper first. Do not go to the computer first. Do not go to your phone first. Don't do that. If you do that, you will be downloading the fear-based consciousness of the world. Don't go there first. Meditate first. Do your spiritual grounding first. Where would you have me go? What would you have me say? And to whom? Because my mind will go one place or the other. There is no such thing as neutral thought. All thought which is not proactively, because remember, we're free. Free will means we're totally at choice. And every moment we're choosing. We're either choosing consciously or we're choosing unconsciously. But we're always choosing, am I going to face the world with love and forgiveness, which is an extension of my perception beyond the veil of illusion, or am I going to be shutting down my heart and allowing my mind to go insane? Now, that means every thought you think will either be used in the service of love, creativity, and the path to happiness, or will be used for the purposes of neurosis and despair and pathological tendency. Every thought, that's how powerful we are. And so given this world and the fact that this world is dominated by the thought system of the ego, we are constantly tempted to perceive without love. So we're not taught about a devil, for instance. The Course in Miracles does not use that word devil. It doesn't teach us that there is something out there in the world that is stalking the planet trying to get to you. First of all, as I said before, there is nothing outside you. However, what there is in each and every one of us is the tendency to perceive without love. And what could be more devilish than that? There is within each of us the tendency to perceive without love. How can you look at the state of the world today and doubt that there is some force of insanity? Insanity. Look what we are doing collectively. This is how serious this is. You know, in the transformational higher consciousness community, there's sophistication about drugs and alcohol. There's sophistication about the fact that if you are an addict and you continue along the path of drug or alcohol addiction, this could kill you. People are rather sophisticated about that in the higher conscious community. A lot of the people who do things like the Course in Miracles do AA, etc. But where we haven't quite gotten to is that it doesn't have to be a particular substance. It doesn't have to be a particular form of addiction. The ego is addiction to fear. It is that which constantly tempts us to do the crazy thing. Now, if you're an addict, that would be picking up the drink. If you're an addict, that has to do picking up the drugs. But you see collectively that we are continuing to behave in ways that are not just destructive towards one individual, but are destructive towards life on earth. Now, just as when you go to an AA meeting or any situation such as that, and they talk about how sobriety has to do with a spiritual experience, it's the idea for us collectively, just as some people who are in AA and other programs such as that, recognize individually that God, through a spiritual experience, you are saved. Once again, the traditional Christian term, but used in a very different way than you normally think of it. What is there to be saved from? Our insanity. The only thing, when you say, save me, yeah, because I'm a freaking mess unless my thinking changes. That's the thinking behind the whole idea of salvation. Salvation is the process of the complete dismantling of a thought system based on fear or ego and acceptance instead of a thought system based on love. Now, the Course in Miracles says that the mind of God is such that everything you go through is a lesson in salvation. Everyone you meet, everyone we meet, we're supposed to meet. Anyone you met, no one that you're supposed to meet will you not meet. And in every single moment, we have the opportunity to, as the Course in Miracles says, awaken from the dream. In every single moment. Now remember, the ego says, no, it's not about the person in front of you. It's about you getting this or getting that. The ego says, no, it's about you manifesting. As though, you know, we're talking here about a force that knows how to manifest babies' butts. We're talking about a force that knows how to manifest babies, period, that knows how to manifest stars, that knows how to manifest flowers. And we think somehow that we can't surrender. When the truth of the matter is, you can allow the same force that keeps planets revolving around the sun. You can allow the same force that turns acorns into oak trees. You can allow the same force that turns embryos into babies to run the circumstances of your life. Or you could choose to do it yourself. That's what the ego is. The ego says, no, I got to figure out what I want, and I got to go make it happen. And these days, that even has a spiritual cover. Like that is somehow, you hear some people talk these days, manifesting what you want is the spiritual mountaintop. Hitler manifests what he wanted. A serial killer manifests. What is this with manifestation? We don't have to go out and make something happen. The Course in Miracles says you have an authorship problem. You did not author yourself. Your job, you don't have to go out and generate anything. The job of enlightenment is to make yourself fully available in any given moment. Now, this is a lot easier said than done, but we practice it. One, as the Course in Miracles says, holy instant at a time. The enlightened master is someone who's got a lock on it. The holy master, the enlightened master, such as a Jesus, is someone who has gotten to the point where every instant is in that holy place, followed by another instant in that holy place. You and I, sometimes we're there, sometimes we're not. When people are being really nice to us and acting the way we want them to, it's pretty easy. But because the universe is always giving us lessons in salvation, we're always being shown someone, how you doing there? And that's how life is. I say it all the time. Wow, Marianne, you're really good. That was really good. That was really good. That was really great. You were gracious. Wow. You were very generous. Kind, yeah. Oh, can you take that? That's how life works, because you have it so that you've really got it, and you're in that love place. But the universe is always, it's like in the Jewish book of wisdom called the Talmud, it says that over every blade of grass, there is an angel bent over going, grow, grow, grow. And the way we grow is that we're placed in situations where maybe it's not quite so easy. Where an enlightened master could see through the insult, an enlightened master could get off it, an enlightened master could lighten up, an enlightened master could not get triggered. But you and I, because of whatever childhood wound usually it is, when we see something that someone does and it triggers us, and the way they looked at us, what they said to us, what they did, whatever it is, in that moment, we get stuck. And we don't know how to keep our hearts open and get our needs met. That is the point of the Course in Miracles, is that at that moment we go, okay, this is not happening by accident. My ego wants to talk about how this is because she's this way or he's that way. And I read a book about that kind of person. And this is really about him being a narcissist or her being an avoidant or whatever it is. And the ego will use whatever it is and get all kinds of social permission from people who are apparently, supposedly as spiritual as you, to come up with how this is all about their stuff. And the holy instant is, okay, I get it. The work is always on myself. It's always on myself. And these days, it's so tempting to make our judgments of other people that somehow they're not as spiritual as they should be, right? They don't read this or that book. They don't go to this or that program. That's how insidious the ego is. But from a Course in Miracles perspective, it's all about our knowing that the work is always on ourselves. The Course in Miracles says that God has an answer to every problem the moment the problem occurs. That is as true individually as it is true collectively. So if you're concerned about the state of the world, you're concerned about the state of this country and so forth, know that from a Course in Miracles perspective, God is on it. God's not going, I'd love to help you, but that election of yours, or whatever, right? God is not, I'd love to help you, but your mother was an alcoholic. There's nothing I can do. So the idea here is that the mind of God is like a GPS. You take a wrong turn, the GPS recalibrates. Humanity takes a wrong turn, you've made mistakes, other people have made mistakes, we all make mistakes. But the moment I made a mistake, the moment somebody else made a mistake in how they treated me, the Course in Miracles says the way out of to undo the consequences of the error is already built into the universe if I will atone for my mistakes and forgive the other person for theirs. And what is happening on the planet at this time, the Course says, is what's always happening, but right now it is so profound the way you see what's happening in this country and in this world. We are all being assigned to each other. The Course in Miracles says relationships are assignments. We are being assigned to each other because in every human interaction, there is maximal opportunity for soul growth. Not only maximal opportunity for soul growth in terms of us as individuals. For instance, if somebody insults me, what's the opportunity for soul growth? Marianne, get over yourself. That's always that. 90% of the time, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't remember anything else from being here this evening or from watching, the one thing I would submit to you that will transform your life, if you will remember this, 90% of the time, no matter what you're going through, it will unbelievably and radically transform your experience if you will just say this to yourself: get over yourself. This is not about you. That is the burden of self. That is what the ego says. And once again, there's a lot of that that's real dressed up in pseudo-spiritual talk these days. It's all about you. It's all about you. Jesus didn't say, love yourself. He said, love each other. And it's not about not loving yourself, because healthy self-regard and self-care is a really good thing. However, from a Course in Miracles perspective, I'm incapable of loving myself if I do not include love of you. Some people say, well, I have to love myself before I love you. Who comes up with this stuff? I know I hear it so many times say, well, you know, I hear this all the time. We're not supposed to be politically active, you know, because, you know, whatever, I hear it all the time. You know, Mary, whatever you focus on expands. Whatever you focus on expands. Somebody said that to me in one of my lectures the other night. Well, but are we supposed to look at all this toxic political stuff? What you focus on expands. Expands. What do you say about that? What do you say about that? Whatever you focus on is what's going to expand. You know, my response was, who comes up with this shit? I don't know. Let's be very, very clear. When they were taking Jews to the concentration camps, there were people all over Germany saying to their neighbors, do you know what happened to the Rosenzweigs? What happened to the Schwartzes? I mean, they were here, and then I heard somebody came in the middle, they're not in their house anymore. Do you know where they are? And we know that there were people who said, oh, let's just talk about positive things. We absolutely know that that happened. This idea, don't look at anything negative. This is how the spiritual community infantilizes itself. The spiritual community should be the biggest grown-ups in the room. The Course in Miracles says, look at the crucifixion, i.e. the ego, but do not dwell on it. You don't want to focus on the negative, but to not look at it at all is not transcendence, it's denial. So when the Course in Miracles says that this world is an illusion, that does not mean ignore it. The Course in Miracles says the moment that the illusion was manifest, that in that moment, because God creates the answer to every problem the moment the problem occurs, the Course in Miracles says that in that moment, God placed within our minds, one term for it is the Holy Spirit. And because it was created by God, it cannot be uncreated. It's a place in your consciousness where when we are in the midst of the insanity, whether it has to do with your own heartbreak, you're in the middle of a divorce, you could be in the middle of an illness, you could be in the middle of whatever you're going through, or our collective craziness, the Course in Miracles says that there is a divine connecting link between us and God. The Course in Miracles says between God and his separated sons. And our job is to stand within this world and to say, okay, I know that I'm insane right now. And the way I know I'm insane is that I'm not at peace. The Course in Miracles says if you're at peace, that's when you know you're sane. And when you're not at peace, it's when you know you're not. And you say, dear God, I am willing to see this differently. My physical eyes show me one thing. My physical ears report one thing. My physical hands report one thing, but I know there is a world beyond this one. I know that this world is a veil of illusion, and that beyond this, there is infinite possibility. The Course in Miracles says there is no order of difficulty in miracles. And when you do that, and in any given moment, you know, when I think of the things that have happened in my life, the mistakes that I have made, that if only I had stopped for an instant and said, God, help me. I am willing to see this differently. And these days, it's so dangerous because you're so tempted with the texting and everything. It's so easy for us to act out our insanity very quickly. So when my mother used to say when I was a child, count to 10. Who can count to 10 anymore, right? I don't have to count to 10. I need to tell him, I know, he needs to hear this from me, and he needs to hear it from me now. We all lack impulse control. That's the world in which we live. And so we're constantly being pulled out of our wisdom. We're being pulled out of our holiness. Your holiness is your wisdom and your nobility and your strength. All we're talking about is your own suffering. That's all that this is about. The things you do and the things that other people do that cause suffering versus the things we do and that other people do that cause peace. And it's played out not only in our personal relationships, but in our collective experience as well. If in any moment we are upset, just know that from A Course in Miracles perspective, whoever is standing in front of you, whoever you are thinking about at the moment, if you will seek to forgive that person in that moment, that is your deliverance from hell to heaven. That is your deliverance from the consciousness of fear to the consciousness of love. And the Course in Miracles says miracles occur naturally as expressions of love. So you probably are not used to thinking that the political situation in America today, plus the international tensions, plus the environmental crisis and so forth, is in any way connected to that person that you're having judgment towards. But actually, from A Course in Miracles perspective, it absolutely is. Because ultimate reality isn't even based on time and space. So this is where individual personal transformation interfaces with global transformation. So the most powerful thing you can do to help save the world is to take the relationships that you are in right now, where you have a grudge against someone. The Course in Miracles says you can have a grievance or you can have a miracle. You cannot have both. Where we have a grievance, I have a grievance towards someone, that means I am identifying them according to their body, which means I am limiting my enlightenment, I am limiting my capacity for miracles, therefore limiting my service to the planet. So the Course in Miracles says, whoever in your life is annoying you, whoever you in your life are judging, whoever you in your life are blaming, whoever it is, the Course in Miracles says you are heir to the laws that rule within the world you identify with. And if you are identifying people according to their mistakes, then to that extent you are limiting your own capacity as a miracle worker. Now, some of the people that we're judging, now, that doesn't mean you have to agree with that person. That doesn't mean you can't work for their, defeat at the polls or something. This has nothing to do with that. It has to do with our capacity to remember who we are. The Course in Miracles says that the people on this planet who have achieved the most have achieved a fraction of what each and every one of us is capable of. The reason the world is limited right now from A Course in Miracles perspective is because we're limited. And we're limited because of our inability to forgive each other. But our ability to forgive each other and to love each other does not mean we're always going to agree, doesn't mean that we're never going to set boundaries, it doesn't mean that we're not going to have the capacity to say no. Sometimes love says no. But it does mean that everything happening in the world, and I don't think any of us would disagree that we've got some serious problems on this planet, is a reflection of where humanity is stuck. But that's not going to be fixed in some broad strokes. It's going to be fixed in you, it's going to be fixed in you, it's going to be fixed in you, it's going to be fixed in me. And for each of us, the Course says, there is a highly individualized curriculum. So when we go into our meditation tonight, the point is for you to think about the people, and the Course in Miracles would say, you know who it is already. Because sometimes we go, oh, not them, no, them. I want to work on somebody else. No, if they're in your mind, that's them. And know that, as the Course says, everyone you meet will be your crucifier or your savior, depending on what you choose to be to them. Crucifier means the people who crucify you are the people who are always reminding you of where you got it wrong. The people you crucify are the people always that you remind you can't get off what they did wrong. Forgiveness is where we step out of time. Time and space are part of the illusion. And we step into the holy instant, which is the only time that's real, the only reality in God's mind, where all things are perfect, all things that are imperfect are corrected. And if we have, the Course in Miracles says, even one holy instant where there is someone, and the Course in Miracles says the holiest spot on earth is where an ancient hatred has become a present love. I remember reading in a Carlos Castaneda book many, many years ago about how, and I can't remember the phrase, but it was something about how if there is someone that you have a hard time forgiving, it's like that person was sent from central casting, you know, because that is someone who confronts you with your inability to step into the wholeness of your true self. Because Jesus or any other enlightened master would stand in front of that person, and like I said before, you simply say, I am willing to see this differently. So if you have, and someone who has, what the Course in Miracles tells us about Jesus, is that having fully actualized the Son of God, the Christ mind within himself, the Course in Miracles says he was then given by God the job, should we request it, of helping the rest of us get there. The Course in Miracles does not say that is the only path to enlightenment or the only path to God. This is not about an exclusive Jesus. But the Course in Miracles does say, if he is your teacher, you need no other. So you would say, I am very upset with that person. You're talking to Jesus. I'm very upset with that person. I'm very triggered. I think that was very incorrect behavior. And I'm not going to stand for it. Now, the Course in Miracles, if you give that kind of attitude to the Holy Spirit, the Course in Miracles would say, maybe there will be something to say to that person, but it will not be said with that snippy tone of voice. It will not be said with those words, it will not be said with that attitude, and probably the timing will be well chosen. Okay? So you say, I am stuck on the mistake that person made, and I know, I've read the Course in Miracles, I know that it's just a mistake, and it's not a sin, and that's not who they really are, but I can't stand them. But I know that you're enlightened, and I know that you are my divine elder brother, and that you will help me get there. I am willing to see that person the way you do. So then Jesus is like listening, and then Jesus says, check, and then Jesus looks at that person, and then looks back at you and goes, I like him. Why is that? Because his eyes move beyond the illusion. He doesn't stop at what the physical senses perceive. He has that spiritual X-ray vision, the vision of the Holy Spirit, that sees only the innocent in the other person. And then you say, all right, well, I'm willing. And the Course in Miracles, well, actually in the Bible, he says, I stand in the breach. In the Course in Miracles, he says, my mind joined with your mind can shine away the ego. This is very, very, very serious stuff. We have a country to save, and we have a planet to save. I don't know how much worse it could get. You know, it's like when with an alcoholic or a drug addict, you have an intervention. Somebody says, this can't continue like this. We need to have an intervention on ourselves. It cannot continue like this. But God has a plan. And the message of the Course in Miracles says is the plan of the teachers of God. And just like in the body, every cell is assigned. Every cell is assigned. You're assigned to your relationships and your job and your situations. You're assigned to your job, your friends, your situation. We're all assigned. How do you know what your assignment is? Wherever you are, that's your assignment. You don't have to figure it out. It's the people who are already in your life. It's the situations that you're already in. God has a plan. There's a line, it's not in the Course in Miracles. It's a traditional Christian concept of the gifts of the Holy Spirit. But it's very much in line with the Course. This idea that you have no idea the power that lies in you. You have no idea the gifts that lie in you. You have no idea the abilities that lie in you. Remember, once again, I mentioned it before, the Course says the people on the earth who've achieved the most have achieved a fraction of what we're all capable of. But no matter how much divine potential you have, no matter how much divine potential I have, and I've seen this in my life, and all of us, if we're honest, know this to be true, one stupid remark, one defensive attitude, one place where you just weren't thinking, you were moving too fast, you went into fear instead of love, you went into blame instead of blessing, and you cut off an entire opportunity for miraculous unfoldment. Now, the Course in Miracles says, in those moments when we chose fear instead of love, which we all do because we're living on a planet where that's the mindset we were taught, particularly now, it's very tempting, the Course in Miracles says that the miracles that you would have had you had an open heart and been in your clarity and your nobility and your wisdom in that moment, the miracles that would have unfolded are held in trust for you until you are ready to receive them. You know, I heard Jim Forbes from Riverside Church spoke at our last Sister Giant, and he said something amazing. He's a Christian minister, and he was speaking in terms of the end days, which of course is not a term in the Course in Miracles or anything like that. But he was talking about how we want to remember that in the so-called end days, he said, yes, there are terrible things that happen on the planet. And a lot of people, he said, are looking at the planet today and going, well, obviously these are the end days, right? He said, but remember, in the end days, there are also many signs and wonders. So from a Course in Miracles perspective, all that end days would mean, it's the end of the ego's reign. The ego, the Course in Miracles says, there is a limit beyond which the Son of God cannot miscreate. We cannot continue like this. The Course in Miracles says that there is a limit beyond which the Son of God cannot miscreate. However, in any given moment, we can choose again. But God cannot do for us what he cannot do through us. We are going to make it in this country, and we're going to make it in this world. Why? Because you're going to become the man you're capable of being. And you're going to stop acting like a little boy, and you're going to grow up and be a real man. And you're going to become the woman that God created you to be. And you're going to stop acting like a little girl, and you're going to rise to the occasion. That is why this country's going to be okay, and that's why this world is going to be okay. Because you and I are going to, as it says in Corinthians, put aside the toys of childhood. That is the salvation of the human race. The salvation of the human race is the evolution of human beings. And it's real easy for us to say, well, if other people would evolve, we can totally see how that would happen. But the Course in Miracles says that the work is always on ourselves. And it's so insidious, isn't it, how the ego operates. It's not out there, it's right here. You probably know who it is already. Might be one person, might be two people, might be three people, might be a job you're in. It's someplace where you're like this. You're blaming, you're playing victim, you're putting off doing the thing that you know in your heart is the right thing to do. You're being childish about it. You're not being forgiving. You're living in the past rather than in the present where miracles occur naturally. You're focused on the future. It's all about ambition rather than service. It's all about making it happen rather than making yourself available to God. You know, sometimes people say, how do I know? How do you know if it's God talking? Well, you know, like, oh, well, that's easy. One sounds like Steven Tyler and the other sounds like Pink. It's not like that. No, not like that. It's the Holy Spirit within you is your voice, and so is the ego within your voice, is your voice. But you know what I say to others because I see it so clearly myself? The issue is not that you don't know what God is telling you to do with your life. The issue is that you're not sure you like what God is telling you to do with your life. It's not hard to sit quietly in the morning and to say, where would you have me go? What would you have me say? Where would you have me go? And what would you have me say to who? It's not that hard. It's just different. So our choice for the planet is the same as your choice for your own life here tonight. So I'll do it if you'll do it. And that is that we're going to allow Spirit to show us. And when we go into these spaces, this is where you just open and receive. And you might see the name of someone and it kind of surprises you. You might see a face of someone and it kind of surprises you. A situation might come up and it might surprise you. Whatever it is, this is the time for us to be humble, to know that our subconscious holds everything. So we are going together because the Course in Miracles says ideas grow stronger when they're shared. That's the value of being here together tonight. It's the value of being on live stream. There's something that happens, that resonant field when we're together. And we're going to let what the Course in Miracles refers to as the voice for God speak to us. And in most cases, it's not going to tell you anything you don't already know. But perhaps your listening will be more open-minded, and you'll be ready to do that which you already know that you should do, but which perhaps before tonight you didn't realize how deeply imperative it was, not only for you, but for the world. The world won't make it unless we show up. And then we're not going to show up unless we evolve beyond some of these childish, neurotic patterns that we're still holding on to. And one of the ways we hold on to them is this woundology. I'm so stressed, I'm so anxious. Who's not? If you're looking in the newspaper today and you're not depressed, what's wrong with you? Everybody's in stress. You think the people who walked across the bridge at Selma were not traumatized? We don't have time to wait for anybody to get over their trauma work before we show up to save this country and save this planet. And the Course in Miracles would say everything that's happening, that's being reflected back to us, is just a sign of where we have not yet allowed to express through us our willingness to remember who we are. So this is not a room where we want to coddle in each other how bad it is or how tough it is. This is a room where we want to think thoughts that make each and every one of us remember that within each and every one of us is greatness and holiness and purity beyond anything that we can even imagine. And so before we go into the meditation, I want to read again how we began tonight. And read it as yourself. Yourself is holy, beyond all the thoughts of holiness of which you now conceive. Its shimmering and perfect purity is far more brilliant than is any light that you have ever looked upon. Its love is limitless with an intensity that holds all things within it in the calm of quiet certainty. Its strength comes not from burning impulses which move the world, but from the boundless love of God Himself. How far beyond this world yourself must be, and yet how near to you and close to God. And now we pray that God reveals to us our true identity, that you may know who you truly are, that you may waken to the truth in you and know that heaven is restored to you. And now with your eyes closed, knowing you needn't go anywhere, you needn't do anything. God is as close to you now as God will ever be. For God is in your mind as you are in His. Here in this holy place is the strength you have been hiding and from which you have been hiding. Here In this holy place is the power which you have been hiding and from which you have been hiding. Here in this holy place is the intelligence which you have been hiding and from which you have been hiding. Here in this holy place is the purity which you have been hiding and from which you have been hiding. Here in this holy place is the forgiveness of others which you have been denying, but which on this night you are ready to grant. Here in this holy place is the self-confidence you have never claimed, but which on this night you are ready to claim. Here in this holy place is the faith in God which you have often avoided, but which on this night you realize is your power. Here in this holy place is your eternal self, which you have long denied, but which on this night you are ready to perceive. Willingly and consciously, you place in the hands of God the toys of childhood you are ready to play with no longer. You have played that you were small. You have played that you were unintelligent. You have played that you were better than others. You have played that you were worse than others. You have played that you were too wounded to make things happen. You have played that you were all alone. You have played that you were unlovable. You have played that you were sick. You have played that you knew better. You have played with arrogance. You have played with false humility. And on this night, you play no longer. And now within your mind's eye, in whatever image it appears to you, an angel perhaps, some being of light, Jesus or any other image, puts out their hand to you and offers to guide you now into the space of your true identity, where you were weak, you shall now be strong. Where you were lost in shame and guilt, you have now atoned for your mistakes, and God Himself shall undo their consequences. where you have held on to blame and victimization, you now forgive the ones who hurt you. Where you cowered in fear, you now stand forth in courage and in love. Where you were good, you shall now be great. Where you made plans, you now pray that God make God's plans for you. Where you served yourself alone, you shall now serve the world itself. Where you played like you were a girl, you shall now be a woman. Where you acted like a boy, you shall now be a man. Where your eyes sought out the wrong in people, your eyes shall now seek the good in people. And in your presence, they shall become more good. You shall salute the strength in people, and in your presence, they shall become more strong. You will bless people, and in your presence, they will feel blessed. For on this night, you surrender to God your life to use for God's purposes, that here within the illusion of the world, you shall stand for an alternative, thus casting a light that shall dissolve all darkness, speaking with wisdom that cuts through ignorance, standing forth with power that empowers the weak. For such is the power of God in you, that such glory shall be yours. Hear what God is saying to you. Feel God's hand upon you. Allow Him to heal your heart. Allow Him to heal your body. Hear Him remind you who you are. For there is so much to do. Atone for your errors. Have mercy upon yourself and others. Forgive others for their mistakes. Know that angels are all around you. There is a path of light before you, and you do not walk alone. Here within this sacred space, in your communion with God, lies all glory and all power. Every day, visit this place from whence you will be sent out into the world to do as God would have you do. Everyone you meet shall be blessed by your blessing, and together you will do great things. Taking this moment before we open our physical eyes to send our blessing to each other, to send our goodwill to everyone joined with us, knowing that having been touched by the hand of God, we shall not be who we were. With gratitude and with praise, together we say, Amen.
If your heart always did what a normal heart should do, if you always play a part instead of being who you really are, then you might just miss the one who's standing there. So instead of passing by, show them that you care. Instead of saying why me and why you, why not we too? 'Cause love don't need a reason. Love don't always rhyme, and love is all we have for now. What we don't have is time. If we always believe all the madness that we're taught, never questioning the rules, then we're living lies we bought so long ago. How are they to know it's not who's wrong or right? it's just another way. And it's not about a fight. It's just I want to stay with you to the end, with you, my friend. 'Cause love don't need a reason. Love don't always rhyme. And love is all we have for now. What we don't have is time. I'll hold you close, time can't tear us apart. I will stand by you. We've got to start with the beat of one heart. Together we will see this through. 'Cause love don't need a reason. Love's never a crime. And love is all we have for now. What we don't have, what we don't have is time.
Thank you,
Doyle Newmeyer.
Maria Maringolo. Marianne, come back here and tell us what you're doing. You know, I've been doing this, what I do for 35 years, and so often, you know, earlier tonight, Marianne said to somebody in my office, well, can you tell me what you're going to talk about, and so I can choose the song. I said, no, don't worry about it, always just works. Could not have been more perfect. Thank you. And then I don't have the page. You were doing something, Marianne Maringolo. That's MARIEMERINGOLO.com.
Marie, M-A-R-I-E-A-N-N.
And you're doing something, you know, you gave us a beautiful experience.
.com.
Tell us what you're doing that you might want people to know
thank
about.
you. Well, that song you just heard is from one of the albums that I have, and I'm in the middle of producing a new CD, and I'm running an Indiegogo campaign. So if any of you wanted to participate in that and join in the excitement and helping that happen, you can go to my website, mariannemaringolo.com, and there's a link if you wanted to contribute. And I feel so blessed to offer this song to you, to be here tonight with Marianne, and to all of you. So
well,
thank
I will.
you so
I hope
much.
others will too. You gave us a lovely, lovely experience tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was
Thank
beautiful.
you.
Thank you to all of you. Thank you also to John Thomas for the beautiful music before. All right, for those of you also on live stream, so you know how we do it now. I'm here the first and the third Tuesday of every month. But for those of you on live stream, and also for you here on Tuesday nights who go to marianne.com, there will still be, because I lecture in Los Angeles once a month. So what there will be is 2 of the live streams will be live here. Then one will be the Los Angeles talk, and another will be some archive talk that people liked or something like that. So the Tuesday night live streams still happen. Okay, for those of you in Los Angeles, I will be speaking back at the Saban Theater on March 26th. The Love America Tour, this week I was in Oklahoma City and Milwaukee and Miami, and you guys were all fantastic. It was wonderful being there. I want you, those of you in New York, to know that on March 21st, I do a series over at ABC Home here in New York called Integrative Politics. And the Wednesday night, March 21st, we will be doing that with former Congressman, U.S. Congressman Alan Grayson, who is really a fantastic former congressman who is running again. So that will be on Wednesday night. And for all of you, you can go to, that's March 21st, and you can go to Marianne.com or to loveamericatour.com and see more about that. And for those of you in New York, that will include, after the talk at ABC, a fundraising reception, a reception with me and Alan that will be a fundraiser for his campaign because he's going back in this year. So I hope that you will definitely look at Marianne.com. For those of you who want to know more about that, and thank you definitely, Bill Secord, and your husband, Bruce, for hosting us at your place after. And I will be, perhaps you will be also, Bill, if you will, talking to those of you who are interested to know more about that reception and how you might participate in the room where the books and the tapes are after this evening, after our talk. Once again, thanks for all of you at the University of Central Oklahoma, and the University of Wisconsin in Milwaukee, and the Unity on the Bay in Miami. Please go to Marianne.com and Love America Tour to find out where I'm going to be. I'm going to be in Phoenix and Raleigh, North Carolina, and Charleston, South Carolina. I will be doing an all-day event on Love America Tour on Charleston, March 23rd, 24th. I would definitely be, if I were not doing Charleston, I would definitely be going to Washington, D.C. with those kids from Parkland in Washington on March 24th. I will definitely be there in spirit. I will also be in Concord, New Hampshire, and in Denver, San Mateo, Pittsburgh, Rhinebeck, Detroit, Dallas. I'm coming to you wherever you are, practically. So I hope all of you will look at loveamericatour.com. Also, the weekly talks are now available on audio downloads on an a la carte basis. You can check that on Marianne.com. You know about my having read the 365 days worth of meditation exercises from the course if you're interested. All of that's on Marianne.com. Dr. John Mundy does lectures on the rules for decision from the Course in Miracles at the Center for Remembering and Sharing. Check Miracles Magazine online for details. He's doing that at 1:30 p.m. on Sunday, March 11th. If you're here and you haven't signed up on my email list, I hope that you will if you're interested in the various things we have going on. I just don't want to take this moment to thank the incredible volunteers and everybody and staff. Thank you so much. Okay, and that's it. We'll talk about anything you want to talk about. Raise your hand. I'll come to you and get right to your question if you can. And I'll try to get right to the answer. Okay? Yes, ma'am.
Hello. Thank you again for everything. So I started the Course in Miracles as my New Year's resolution, and I love it. I just want some of your advice on how to make it, make the best of it, and, because sometimes, I don't have, when I miss something every day, and I don't have enough time. Do you suggest that I take a second time on each work on each lesson?
If you feel on any one day, you didn't really get it. It's very, very common to stay with it a second day. Sometimes I've stayed with it a third day, but then move on. I mean, there's no graduation day. It's just, I would get bored if I stayed too long with one.
Okay.
Nobody up there is going, you think you're doing it right? It's not like that.
Okay.
Makes sense. Do what's comfortable for you, the Course would say.
Yes, that makes total sense, especially now that I've been going after the lessons that I've been becoming more accustomed to understanding and being more at ease with it. And with the text, do you suggest how much of the text every day?
There's nothing. Listen, with the text, one paragraph, 2 sentences can blow your mind for a few days.
Okay.
There's nothing in that text. So this is not a book you read a chapter or two before you go to bed, and it's very personal. It's very personal. The only thing that the Course says that it does say is to read it from the beginning. This idea of just picking it up somewhere, that's not doing the Course. Doing the Course, now maybe if you've already read it, that's different. But if you actually want to do the Course, you just read it as it goes, but there's no timing, and obviously it's a very deep book, and I can't even imagine finishing it sooner than a year. I didn't.
Okay. Well, I'm
time.
enjoying it, so it's okay.
Good for
And
you.
one last question, if you don't mind. In some lessons, like I want to see this world differently. You touched upon it a little bit. So sometimes you look at the world and you see something great, like you see something you love and something that makes you feel
Right.
good, or a person that you love and you see
Right.
their innocence. As far as I know that that might be part of the illusion, but as far as that is concerned, when I see that, so I say, I should look at it differently.
No. The Course in Miracles says that the body is a beautiful lesson in communion until communion is. The Course in Miracles does not say, the Course in Miracles is not trying to make you enjoy a sunset less.
So if you see something that you love, it's just for the attack thoughts that it's saying. See
Yes,
things that,
and it will only enable you to appreciate a flower more, a sunset more.
Okay.
You know, your capacity to appreciate a person's smile more and a person's kindness more will make the rest of the world even more beautiful.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Who's next? Yes, sir.
Hi, Marianne. I was reading your book, A Return to Love, today at work because I couldn't stop thinking about this guy that I just met. And I'm really good at obsessing about guys. And, you know, like, I got so much out of just hearing you today. You just, like, recharged my battery to 100%.
Thank you, I'm glad.
My iPhone keeps dying, so
What, are
I
you
can
hearing
relate
it
to my
on
iPhone.
Audible?
No, it was. I have your book. Like I have.
Reading the book.
I'm reading
I thought
the book.
you were hearing
yeah.
about the iPhone.
Yeah. So my question, I guess, is, you know, how do you try to like? So you sort of attach to someone you like, but then you don't want to suffer. So to add more to the explanation of this, he does not live in this country. He's somewhere in the Middle East, but he travels back and forth between New York. So I guess, you know, I'm struggling with like this, you know, I miss him. I want to be there with him, but then we're talking and everything's seeming
good.
to blossom, and I'm already like, I guess, catastrophizing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Look what's happening here. The coolest thing in the world is happening, and your ego is making it wrong. You know, even that word obsession. You know, how about just our souls are connected, and I can't stop thinking about you, and you can't stop thinking about me. How cool is that? No, you shouldn't be obsessing. It's just a way that it's not. I mean, think about what that word means. You could just as easily say, wow, his soul is with mine, and mine is with him, and there is no space or time. How cool is this? Right?
Yeah.
So you have been trained to not allow yourself, just enjoy this. It's your incapacity to enjoy this because you've been trained that you can't. So when you say you're catastrophizing, yeah, but you're authoring the catastrophe. Not by thinking of what could happen later, but by your denial of allowing yourself to just be with it now. And there are those who say, oh, well, you know, it's just not, it's not healthy that you're thinking about him so much. And all that stuff that's out there. Who's to say? It's beautiful. You like him, he likes you. Can we just enjoy this? Does that make sense? Like, enjoy it. Thank you.
Hi, thank you
Hi.
for tonight. It's been amazing.
Thank you.
On the theme of relationships, I went through a breakup about 8 or 9 months ago. We ended things with love because she moved away. We said we would keep in touch. She hasn't. How do I move on when there's no closure, when there's still so many questions?
Wait, I thought you said you ended it with love.
We ended it with love, with the understanding that we would keep in touch.
Well, wait a minute. Wait, I don't understand. But you, what is it that you ended then?
We ended our physical being
You
together.
ended your physical being together. And how long were you together?
11 months.
11 months. But you felt very deeply.
Very deeply.
And she felt very deeply also?
I presume so.
You know, it could be argued she's the healthy one here. She needs some space here.
So just give her the space and
Well, sometimes that's how we show a person how much we love them.
And all those questions.
Pardon?
All of those questions that keep going through my mind of why hasn't she contacted me yet? That's just
Well,
my
that's
ego.
understandable that your mind is going there, but that's the part of your mind that hasn't completely accepted. You ended one thing. You know, because you're speaking, you know, two sides of your mouth. On one hand, you're saying, we ended it, but then really you're doing what was very natural. We've all been there. You're saying, yeah, we ended it, but we're going to keep in touch. You know, which really, my daughter has talked to me a lot about this. Usually when there's a reason why people take time. Do you know what I mean? Not that I'm saying you should, but there's a reason for it, because often one or both people really is hoping, and you sound like one of those people, right? So you're hoping, and maybe she's not, and this is part of loving her, is respecting her choice to be where she needs to be right now. And for all we know, she is in a place that's actually going to make the coming back together in whatever form is right easier. Does that make sense? Because really, and I'm only getting my information from you, but you're still in a yearning for something.
I am.
So when you say we were going to keep in touch, you're really hoping, and I've been there, most of us have been there, don't get me wrong, it's not to make you wrong, but look what you're saying. You're saying we ended something, but we were going to keep in touch, which really you're hoping that it's not ended in that sense. This is all normal, it's natural, but it doesn't mean she's not thinking about you. You know, it doesn't mean she's not thinking about you. But I think one of the things about everything we were talking about tonight, that the body is not the ultimate reality. I mean, we are thinking about people whether they are in our physical presence or not. And the Course in Miracles says relationships are never over. All that ends is physical proximity. And physical proximity, the way we're talking about it tonight, time and space are the illusion rather than the ultimate reality anyway. So she's thinking about you, you're thinking about her, and this is a time in your relationship. The relationship is not over, but the relationship is not centered in physical form at this moment. Right. And with you, as with you, the pain comes from our denying that, you know, and wanting a connection that we could feel if we would allow ourselves to feel. But the ego says, no, it's not real because she's not calling, because he's in a different country. And this is why, you know, the Course in Miracles says you think you have many different problems, but you really only have one, and that is your separation from God. In your oneness with God, she's right here. But if you're, you know, you're doing, once again, what we all do, it's not like it's different, but your ego wants touch and sound and physicality. And that's pulling at something which apparently wasn't right for her right now. And I know it was her, not you, because we've heard where you are, right?
Yep.
Does that make sense? So to respect her and to give her that space, but no, she's right here.
Okay. Thank you.
Does that make
for
sense?
a different perspective.
Who's next? Yes, ma'am.
Hello.
Hello.
This is I don't know how to consolidate this question. I don't even know how to ask it, but with staying calm. So it's not about me. So I've read, I don't even know if this is true, but I believe it's true.
Okay.
It's political.
Okay.
And it's about, you know, the whole election and how I don't even know how to say it without even fearing that it sounds crazy. I've read these emails that have come out in Pizzagate. And the first thing you go online and read about, it says, this thing has been debunked, don't even look further. So, you know, I'm like, oh, okay, what is this stuff? So I've read the emails talking about how many pizzas they're going to have tonight and how many pizzas are going to be delivered to the White House and all this cheese pizza and all this crazy stuff.
The Pizzagate, the Hillary Clinton Pizzagate?
Yes. So at first I started saying this is all fake. I can't believe this. So then I brought it, you know, to my family's attention and to my loved ones. I try not to bring it up to too many people because it sounds so crazy. And it sounds so absurd that it would be trafficking and children and Hillary and all these people would know. So I'm like, if this is true, you know, I'm not political.
First of all, you're about a year late on the Pizzagate
Oh,
thing.
no, I've been reading about it for a year,
Okay.
but I'm trying not to talk about it to my relatives and people because they already think I'm crazy with this whole Course in Miracles talk. So
Okay, I understand.
So I try to bring it up bits, but now that I'm talking about this, it's like, oh, now you're on the deep end.
The Pizzagate one is one about which there has been absolute established evidence. That was complete
Thank you.
planted. That was complete fake. That was
fake.
complete, and in fact, by the country that we know was doing it in order to help tip the election away from Hillary Clinton.
But how did Podesta get in this? Because these pictures are real. Podesta's
Okay.
art is
You know
real.
what? If
This is
you
what he
want-
loves.
If you want to go online
Yeah.
and read about the Pizzagate scam, you can. Pizzagate one is one about which among a vast majority of people, that's not even a gray area one. That's not even a gray area one. So if you want to read further about it, you can. But it certainly had a lot of effect at the time.
Yeah, it still has. But you can't undo those pictures. All the people that are affiliated in these emails
okay.
are real.
I invite you to go onto the internet and read more about that. Listen, it's not even just what Pizzagate did. We have an election coming in November, and there are going to be more things like that. And everybody is going to have to, within your own mind and your own heart, look deep down. But to be honest, man, Pizzagate is not one that should be hard. I'm sorry. And just turn on the news, except for Fox and any
CNN and
any channel. I mean, we just read a newspaper and know what's going on, and we know who's planning them, and we know who's doing it. We know what countries that come from. We know they spent $1 million a month, and it's a terrible, terrible thing, actually. Okay, who's next? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I've been kind of wondering about the body and the soul relationship.
The body and soul relationship, yes, sir.
Yeah, and I hear, you said it was a suit of clothes, your body
Yes.
over the soul, or
Okay.
a glove, and
Uh-huh.
I get this feeling that it's more than that.
You think
And
more what?
I get a feeling that it's more than that, more than just the suit of clothes over the soul. I think there's more of a relationship between
Oh,
the
of
two.
course there is. And there's nothing, the Course in Miracles would not argue otherwise. Within this world, there's a profound body-mind connection. There's nothing in the Course in Miracles that would deny that or would minimize that at all. Does that make sense?
Yeah, one thing that resonated with me was that we're the hand of God,
Yes.
and that we're here to do God's work
Yes.
while we're here.
Yes.
And it just, I don't know, it just seems like more than an illusion. And I know the ego always
Wait a
steps
minute.
in. And
Wait. I talked about the hand of God, obviously a metaphor. The Course in Miracles says that all words are at best but symbols. And we're talking about the idea that you are here to, like in any given moment, this is the deal, in any given moment I can think many different thoughts. In any given moment, and we know this about the way the brain works, we know this about the way the eyeballs work. There are, as I look at you right now, my brain and my eyeballs are picked. There are so many millions and millions and millions and millions of visual stimuli. My mind is picking out what to see, right? And that's true in every situation. It's true in every moment. In every moment, the mind is receiving on some subconscious level direction, what to notice, what to respond to, who to be within the situation. Life is not just about what happens to us. It's about who we choose to be within the space of what happens to us. And I often quote the song, the Bob Dylan song, where he says, you're going to have to serve somebody. It might be the devil, it might be the Lord, but you're going to have to serve somebody. And that's very much like the line I mentioned earlier, that there is no such thing as a neutral thought. So to say, may the hand of God come over me, is to say, may I be overshadowed by the spirit of love so that I am not weak here, so that I'm not defensive here, so that I'm not dishonest here, so that I'm not reactive here, so that I'm not neurotic here. It's pretty simple. And I'm not an enlightened master, so I'm not someone who never deviates from the best that I can be. But I know that as I practice the Course, my being aligned with the best of myself is more the rule than the exception. That's what we're talking about. I mean, all of us have, you know, that movie, yeah, it was a movie, but I didn't say the movie, the TV show, Absolutely Fabulous. You know that character, Adina, is that her name, or Edwina or something? Somebody once asked me, what would have your life have been if you had never found the Course? I said, I would have been that woman in Absolutely Fabulous. I mean, who among us have not, when we think of who we could have been or who we could be, that's really all that life is about in any given moment. Who are you choosing to be? Are you choosing to rise to the occasion? So that's what we mean when we say the hand of God. And I don't think actually the Course uses the expression the hand of God, but it does talk very specifically about the Holy Spirit being the voice for God within you. All of us have within us, it's like a direct radio link. From a Course in Miracles perspective, each of us has within us a direct radio link to the voice for God. The problem is there's so much static that we can't hear it. So there is a term that both Jews and Christians use. It's in both religions, called the small, still voice for God, the small, still voice within. The problem is that not that the small, still voice for God is not within you. It's within all of us. That connecting link, remember when I said earlier tonight, the Course in Miracles says, in the moment when God created the Holy Spirit and placed within you, what God creates cannot be uncreated. Now, in every religion, you know, in the Jewish religion, it's the covenant. Every religion has its own way of speaking of this connecting link between you and God. And every religion represents a different sort of door into that sacred room. But it's there within us. But the thinking of the world and the particularly today, the assault of information and craziness is such that if you do not ground yourself in spirit in the morning, then it's very difficult to hear it. It's not that the voice for God does not live within you. It's that we can't hear it. And that's why the Course in Miracles says about doing the workbook, 5 minutes, it says 5 minutes spent with the Holy Spirit is enough to guarantee He will be in charge of your thought forms throughout the day. Now, I'm not saying that if we do the workbook in the morning, we're enlightened masters that day. But I will tell you this from experience. You do your workbook in the morning, the chances of you blowing it really badly and doing something really stupid today are drastically reduced. And that's all we're talking about in your life if you think about it. Think about the tears that you have cried. Sometimes it's over things. We lost someone we loved, etc. But a lot of the tears you've cried are because of something you did that you wish you hadn't done. Or something you didn't do that you wish you had done. The kind of person that you wish you had been in a situation and you weren't. Am I wrong? Who's next? This gentleman here and then that lady over there. Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
So I'm new to all of this. I've been coming for a few weeks, and I have a meditation question because I've been meditating for a long time, and more from the Eastern traditions of stilling the mind.
Yes.
And watching the thoughts, letting go of thoughts, and getting to that quiet place. And I was very inspired by when you talk about praying.
Yes.
Which I've never done, and I've been doing it for the last 2 weeks, I guess. And I'm sort of having like a flip-flopping going on where I start meditating the way I used to meditate. And then there's something nice about kind of opening up to something bigger.
Right.
And praying and, looking for guidance and that. So I'm just curious if you had any advice on how do you integrate the two?
The Course in Miracles says prayer is the medium of miracles. So I always say prayer is where you talk to God, meditation is where you listen. Mm-hmm. So if you are about to go into a business meeting, or you're about to go on a date, or just starting your day, just to take that moment before you go to work, send your love to everybody that you know you're going to see today. Send your love to everybody you know you're going to see. Send your love to everybody you don't even know you're going to see. Pray for the happiness of your employees. Pray for the happiness of your employers. Pray for the happiness of your associates. Just do it. Don't believe me. Just try it. You shouldn't believe any of this because I say it, and the Course in Miracles says you shouldn't believe in it even just because even the Course in Miracles says it. You should only believe it if you try it and it has practical results. The Course in Miracles says it's a very practical book. This is not about having faith, it's about having experience. Faith is an aspect of consciousness. We all have faith. You either have faith in the power of love in a situation or faith in the power of the disaster as it's unfolding. Right? So it's just a prayer. Dear God, and when you say, may God's will be done, first of all, the highest level of prayer, the Course says, is not an entreaty of any kind. It's just a being with God. But when you pray in any situation, may God's will be done, God is love and will is thought. So when you pray that God's will be done, just means may loving thought prevail here. May I see you through the eyes of love, and may you see me through the eyes of love. Because I'm going to be tempted to judge you, and you're going to be tempted to judge me. But as I pray, I'm affirming to my own subconscious mind where I want my mind to go. Make sense? And then the rest is just words. Don't get hung up on words. What's prayer? What's meditation? Do you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes. Okay, this lady here.
Oh. It's so...
About the subconscious mind. You know, when the gentleman was talking about the mind and body and stuff, notice my subconscious mind, notice I wasn't coughing during the talk. It's all subconscious. Okay, sorry. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
It's so nice to meet you.
So nice to meet you as well.
I've always wanted to come, and I'm with my daughter, and we're from New Jersey, and we saw the blizzard, but we didn't care. Actually, she won us Good Morning America tickets tomorrow to see Oprah, and
Oprah's in New York?
Yeah, I thought she'd be here. She's not here? I thought she'd be sitting in here with us. I said, that's how I got turned on to you, but yeah, we're going to see her, so we're staying in the city tonight, and I said, oh my gosh, if Marianne Williamson's, I have to go see, and she's, we'll go, Mom, let's go. Okay, let's go. So we are here.
I'm honored that you're here.
Yes,
thank you.
It's so nice to meet you. And I met you through my best friend when I was going through a little hard time. And she sent me the 4-minute clip of you and Oprah with the betrayal. And I've shared that. I own a hair salon, and I have shared that. You have your color on? Here, listen to this. I've shared it with so many people.
Thank you.
And that's how I just got turned on to you, and being Jewish, but I love Jesus. I mean, I love everything about Christianity. I don't know what I am. I just love everything. I really do. So you just...
Thank you.
The Return to Love is next to my bed.
Well, thank you very, very much.
And I just want more time to read and more time. But that really hit me, the trust fund, I get it, that you have to be on this path and it's just going to come. But there's times where I get off, you know, and if I'm not with, like, the spirit, or that's when I feel off.
That's right.
And not knowing, you know, growing up Jewish, but not growing up I'm Jewish, and I'm not sure what I am, and
Jewish.
I'm Jewish. I am. That's my blood, and I respect that. But I love a lot of things,
Yeah.
and I want to do the Course in Miracles.
Yeah,
but how do you stay centered? How do you stay
what?
How do you stay, like, knowing, like, I feel good about everything?
Well, you sound like you're doing fine to me.
I want to try the Course in Miracles. I don't know. I loved what you said about, you know. But how do you stay like that? I don't stay like that all the time.
Don't. Okay, so that's, first of all, as far as the different religions is concerned, I mentioned the other day, saw somewhere on Twitter that someone referred to me as religiously polyamorous. And I thought, so she's religiously polyamorous. I thought that was pretty adorable. In terms of how do we stay on it, the Course in Miracles is divided into 3 books. The first book is the text. It's all in that one book or the 3 volumes. The first book is the volume volume 1, it's been referred to here tonight. It's called The Text. It's the intellectual basis of the course, the ideas, the kinds of things we were talking about here tonight and during the talk. But the second book is what the Course says is the crux of the Course, and that is 365 days worth of those exercises. That's where the mind is trained to think along the lines that the text sets forth. If the intellectual shift was enough, I would be an enlightened master by now. You know, many of us have read this stuff enough, but that's not it. The issue is the training of the attitudinal muscles. So it's much like when you go to the gym and you're working out your physical muscles so you can move. When you do spiritual exercise, such as the workbook of the Course, you are training your attitudinal muscles. And it's very parallel, because you work your physical muscles so you can move, you work your spiritual muscles in order to achieve stillness, and that you cannot be moved. So it's physical gravity on the outside that would pull down your muscles, and it's emotional and psychological gravity on the inside, always pulling you down, pulling you down. And it's the same principle, repetitive motions that are anti-gravitational, and you build your muscular strength. Now, you seem like a very optimistic person, a very happy person. You know, you seem great to me. But what you're saying also sounds normal. You have those moments where it's more difficult. And the issue is, and you see this in life, both the good things and the difficult things seem to come from out of the blue. You don't get a note in the morning, watch out, because around 4 this afternoon, right? And that's why it's so important that we prepare ourselves in the morning. So if you're attracted to the Course in Miracles, it's doing the Course in Miracles. But you know, it's not like it's not in Judaism. It's not like it's not in Hinduism. It's not like it's not in Buddhism. It's not like it's not in Islam. It's not like it's not in Christianity. All the different, you know, religions have their powerful ways of returning. Now, the Course in Miracles, that's why I said earlier, it doesn't claim to have a monopoly on the truth. It is one statement. It doesn't claim to be for everybody. If it's for you, you know it. And it's based on universal spiritual themes. So A Course in Miracles, A Return to Love, my book, is like the Cliff Notes of the Course. You know, it's just a popularization of the basic ideas and my reflections on them. But if A Return to Love spoke to you, and you're asking me, how do you actually make that practicable and practical in your life? The answer is to pick up the Course in Miracles. Now, if you pick up the Course in Miracles and you do the workbook for 30 days, you might feel at the end of 30 days it's just not for you, but it will not have been a waste of your time. And I think that those 30 days will probably speed you along to the one that is for you. Or if you are right now saying, you know, I like these ideas, but I just don't feel drawn to the Course in Miracles. But you say in your own heart, just a prayer, I want to know what is the teaching that would serve me. Books will fall at your feet in the next few days. Somebody will just mention something to you. You know, not just about your spiritual path, but about everything. Everything you need, because the universe is the mind of God. It is the hand of God, and it is intentional. God's intention is your enlightenment. Everything that could contribute to your happiness and to your upliftment and to the correction of any problem, the solving of any problem that you need, is either right in front of you or speeding on its way. And part of the ego's game is to have you not present, because if you were really present to the person in front of you and the situation you're in, you would see how much is already there that you're not seeing, partly because you're worrying about it's not being there. Does that make sense? So you might want to look at the Course in Miracles itself. But I'm glad you're here and enjoy it and enjoy Oprah. And is she doing that thing I was reading today about the trauma, children and trauma? And should be
going to be a guest on Good Morning.
on Good Morning America tomorrow?
Yeah. Yeah.
Watch it. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Marianne.
Thank you.
I recognize that most of my challenges come from acting from the little girl within me
Right.
versus the embodied woman that is
Yes.
connected to the divine.
Yes.
I like to think of my connection with the divine as this rainbow that's shooting out of me, and she is coming right down
Sounds
and
good
guiding
to
me.
Yes.
So I've applied that frame to something wonderful happening to my life, but something that's coming up. So my boyfriend of 3 years and I are talking about marriage. I love him deeply. He's a wonderful man. And yet the little girl inside of me is freaking out a little bit. And I'm trying to calm her. And I recognize that there's nothing in me that's saying no to the scenario. There just seems to be, like, she has to give up her identity, basically. in
Okay,
some ways.
hold on. I'm confused. So we're talking about marriage. Has he asked you to marry him?
No, we are going through a conscious process of asking each other what would marriage look like for us.
Oh,
What
God, that is so
committing?
unsexy. Don't you see that? We work so hard to de-romanticize. Especially these days. So you are giving, I can totally see why you're freaking out.
Yeah.
And I totally can we just look, you're going through this, tell me again. You're going through this conscious process of discussing it, and
Well,
sounds really hot.
I know the New York Times, they had a whole list of here are like questions you should ask, and here are different things you should know and talk about.
So you are having this conversation together
Yeah.
to decide whether or not to get married.
Not to decide, but to see like what else is coming up. Where are there differences in how we're asking these questions? Where are there differences?
Well,
in
that
what we
sounds
haven't-
good relationship work, certainly.
Yeah.
But where is the marriage part? Did I make that up? Or did you say that you, at the beginning, that y'all were talking about whether or not to take it to that place?
We are talking about it.
Okay, so, men. If you want to claim her, ask her. Get on your knees. Say, this is what I want. You know, Pat Allen, I love how Pat Allen says, a man says what he wants. A woman says what she doesn't want. There's something so hot, so sexy, so manly, so masculine about a man saying, this is what I want. And the woman gets to say whether she wants it or not. But this is so wimpy. It is so lacking in, there's divine masculine, just like there's divine feminine. There's a lot of talk these days about divine feminine. There's also divine masculine. There is something powerful about a man asserting, not in a macho way, not in a controlling way, not in a mean way, but saying, this is what I want. And it is not an unequal relationship at all. But this kind of thing, where's the juice? Where's the eroticism? Where's the glue? Well, you're taking, and then everybody's complaining because then it's, where's the Viagra? And I understand it. And I mean that. I mean, it's cute, it's funny, but it's also very, very serious. Good luck with that.
And
by the way, and now I'm being very serious now. I'm not being glib because I want to say this very sincerely. No wonder you're freaking. There's so much room given to freaking. Mm-hmm. How could you not? From a Course in Miracles perspective, not that this work isn't significant, the things you're talking about and that couples talk about, absolutely. But from a Course in Miracles or any serious spiritual perspective, you pray and you ask. a man would ask, whether you're to a man or to a woman, gay relationships, straight relationships, this is all the same. Is this someone I want to ask to marry me? It's beyond like all these questions. Is this or is this not? And your response is, dear God, what is my answer? Mm-hmm. This is the way to drive yourself crazy, and this is why most of us are. We give ourselves too much space. Somebody said to me, actually, I was married to him, interestingly enough. He said, you are so hard on yourself, and the reason you're so hard on yourself is because you're so easy on yourself. How do you really think that, I mean, we all say we want the hot, passionate moment. We all say we want the ecstasy. We want the juice. And yet we work so hard these days to peripheralize exactly that. So, there are, as we all know, in love. Mm-hmm. I mean, on one hand, it's true, love is different than compatibility. Mm-hmm. But to be honest, you're not a little girl. Mm-hmm. He's, I'm assuming, not a little boy. Mm-hmm. And it's been 3 years. Mm-hmm. You kind of know now.
Yeah.
Whether or not you're compatible. My suggestion to you would be to pray and to ask. And that brings back the capacity for power and strength. Do you really want a man? I mean, I once had there was once a man in my life, and this is how he put it. Well, I mean, we can get married if you want. I mean, how would you, really? Yeah. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So the fact that the little girl in you is going nuts, I can see why. Mm-hmm. What would he say to this if he were here?
He knows that about what I'm going through, but
Does he want to marry you?
Yes.
Oh, I wish I could have 5 minutes with this guy. He should just ask you. Mm. And if he said to you, do you want to marry me? What would your heart say?
Yes.
That's it. Mm-hmm. Put the New York Times down. Mm-hmm. He's going through what I think a lot of men are going through right now. He's scared to assert himself, because I think it's real tough to be a man right now because, there is a difference between masculine and macho. Mm-hmm. And I think men in a lot of situations now, and for some very understandable reasons, are afraid to assert their masculinity. And then the woman sitting here like, wow, can you get up here? I mean, it's tough. So that's what you really want? Isn't that what you really want?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think he knows that that's what you really want?
Yes.
He does?
Yeah. I feel, you go like this with the neuroses. I feel myself sometimes
just ask me.
Or, yeah, but then I let the other stuff, the chatter come up. So that's when I zoom into the rainbow.
But exactly. The woman in you, the woman in you not only is not a little girl, but the woman in you isn't in her head all the time.
Yeah.
That's not the woman in you.
Yeah.
You've been with him for 3 years. Mm-hmm. I bet you have a way where you could let him know. Mm-hmm. I suggest you do it tonight. Okay. Let's get this thing going. Let's get this moving, right? Okay, yes, ma'am.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's wonderful as always.
Thank you.
I had a question going back to what you said about when the Holy Spirit puts something into trust for you, when something goes wrong. I think that's a really interesting concept, but...
No, that's from the Course in Miracles.
Right. I guess I wanted you to...
Please, Jennifer. Somebody, please. Oh, thank you. I'm sorry, ma'am.
Sure. Let's say if it's in a situation like with a job, and you had an assignment and you blew it, Does the trust go into that same situation to rectify it, or is it into a whole new situation, if that makes sense?
Well, not necessarily, because other people have free will. So the issue is, and what this lady is referring to is the part where I talked about earlier, where the Course says, if you did something or didn't do something about your thought and or behavior deflected the miracle, which is the same thing as saying you didn't stand in love, you didn't let the Holy Spirit guide you, so you did something, there was perturbation in the field. Love and miracles didn't come through. So the Course in Miracles talks about the atonement. You go back to the moment in which you made the mistake, you have to own it. The ego is going to talk about what other people did to mess it up. The Course in Miracles says you pay a very high price for not taking 100% responsibility for your life. Only if you take 100% responsibility can you change it. So the Course in Miracles says when we atone, we really get where our part of this, including amends if they need to be made. This rights the universe. Remember, we were talking tonight about the recalibration. The Course in Miracles does not promise that with that job or with that person in the realm of form, that it will all go back to the way it was. It does not say that. It does say this, however, and this is on page 90, that prayer on page 90. It says, the Holy Spirit will undo all consequences of my wrong decision if I will let him. So those are the words in the Course. It will undo all consequences. It does mean that ultimately your relationship with that situation will be healed, because the Course in Miracles says all who meet will someday meet again until their relationship becomes holy. But it's not promising that they'll rehire you or that that person will want to date you again or anything like that. But it does promise that you will return to peace and that the situation will be healed. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I feel a bit nervous, but okay, I'm going to speak. I feel like I've had a problem since I was born. Like I came out of my mother's womb and I was like, oh no, not again, I'm here. And then I feel like that's been part of my life ever since, that everything I try and do in life has this underlying thing of, why do I have to be here? I don't want to be here. I'm struggling. And it's not a case of I'm suicidal. It's not a case of I'm depressed. I just don't understand why I have to be here. And I feel like in that way, I just can't do anything here. Like I get a little bit forward with stuff, and then I wake up and I'm like, thank you that I woke up. Thank you, dear God. I say the prayer every day. God, allow me to be a vessel of your love. What would you have me do? I say that prayer every day. And then I get up and then I still struggle. I still wander the streets being like, I don't want to be here. I want to go home.
Well, I'm really impressed that you're here. I'm really impressed that, I mean, that's very sad, the story you just told. And I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry. It reminds me of that book, Many Mansions. What is it? Many Masters, Many Mansions. One really wonders what has happened in your sort of prolonged journey through the cosmos, that would be the case. But I'm impressed that you are willing, obviously, saying the kinds of prayers that you said, being in places like this. Do you do the Course in Miracles itself? Do you do the exercises?
Yeah.
You do them. How long have you been doing it?
Not long. I've had it in my awareness for many years, maybe 20 years.
Are you doing the workbook yet?
Yeah.
And how far are you?
No, not at right. In this phase, not far,
okay.
Like 14
Well,
days.
we'll be glad to say a prayer with you if you like.
Thank you.
And I hope that you will continue with those workbook exercises. You know, it's like physical exercise. It can't not work.
Yeah.
You know, the 12 steps or anything like that. They work if you work them.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like, what is your name?
Nicole.
You know, it's not like God is saying, I can make all things right except Nicole.
Yeah. I mean, I believe that. You know, I really do.
Well, you believe it, but tonight lean on our faith that that's the case. Let's pray for Nicole. Okay. Dear God, we join with Nicole. And we know, dear God, that Nicole is not the only person here for whom a deep emotional burden holds them back. A sense that she has always had, as far back as she can remember, dear God, that she doesn't really want to be here. Dear God, we don't know where that chain comes from, but we pray that right now you break it. And we join in the consciousness that in God all things are possible. We join in the consciousness that there is no order of difficulty in miracles. And everyone in this room, anyone who is holding a thought or a burden, and it seems like it's just too big for God to handle, even because we blew it too much or the situation is too strong. And we remember in this moment that there is no order of difficulty in miracles, and that we do not ask God for too much, we ask for too little. And so for Nicole and for all of us, dear God, please work the miracle that she needs. Cast out that thought. Remove that burden. Uplift her spirit. And what you do for her, dear God, please do for us all. And so it is, we say. Amen. Okay, it's getting late. I'm asking you to please go right to your question, go right to the question real quickly, and I'll go right to the answer real quickly. Okay, I see this lady here and that gentleman over there. Okay. Yes.
Yes. Hi.
I'm coming over.
Okay.
But you can start because I got you.
Sure, yeah.
It's...
So you, you mentioned when you were talking about how, with all the pictures or the ugliness that we see in the world, or even in other people,
yes,
that it's where humanity is blocked,
right?
And I thought it was so profound and helpful, to see that. And you also mentioned that whenever we think we're going to do better, or we don't know what to do, or we're stressed, that God is on it always.
Right.
There is one thing that I find myself always struggling with, especially now, with, like you're saying, what's happening in the world and in politics, and watching the news. And I try to be very careful because images and sounds are very difficult to delete.
Right.
And I was watching something, on Syria, what's happening in Syria, and, some images that were so difficult. And I just heard myself say, God, why can't you just stop it? And I find that this, is such a strong level of pain, that in life I'm able to balance things out. Obviously, there's always learning and constant attention to, like you said earlier, get those books, reconnect, all of that. But for something like this, I feel like I have a block, I feel like there's a part of me...
Wait, but I'm with you until that moment. What do you mean you have a block? I don't see where you have a block. The fact that you feel agony...
Yes.
The fact that you feel agony about those children in Syria is a sign of mental health. That's the thing. People are saying, like, something's wrong with me, I'm upset. It's like I said earlier tonight. The fact that you're upset by these things is a sign that you are mentally healthy. The fact that someone is not upset by those things is a sign that they're not mentally healthy.
Yes.
That's a huge issue in America today. There are 12,000 children starving every day on this planet, 1 every 4 seconds. And Jesus, the night before the crucifixion, when the disciples were falling asleep, he said, "Can you not remain awake with me 1 hour in the hour of my agony?" So you are remaining awake in the hour of someone's agony is a sign of an evolved human being.
But what I'm not able, I think where more my block is, how to, I understand completely, obviously, yes. It's beyond, compassion and feeling for these atrocities. But I get upset at God.
You get upset at what?
At God sometimes.
God didn't do that.
God didn't do that.
Whoa,
yeah.
whoa, whoa,
I mean,
whoa.
No, it's human. Yeah.
No. Well,
I
let's
have
talk
to say,
about that.
why can't you stop it?
No, wait. Well,
yeah.
he can't stop that because of free will. That's number one.
Yeah.
Number two, 12,000 children starve on this planet every day. There is no dearth of food.
God's not doing this. People are. Now, I cannot speak specifically to the issue of Syria because Syria is a very complicated situation. But in many situations on this planet where we see the deepest human suffering, do not kid yourself how often American foreign policy, directly or indirectly, had a hand in blocking forces that might have ameliorated that suffering. Their karma might be to suffer. Your karma is to be a kick-ass American woman who shows up at these midterms and stops this stuff. Right? So this is the issue. You know, it's like, well, maybe it's their karma to starve. Yeah, well, it's your karma to not ignore their starvation. That's the thing. And so much of that, look how the ego would displace it onto God. God didn't do this. We know Assad's name. We know what's happening in Syria, and it's complicated. I'm not blaming the United States. I'm not blaming the United States the United States does much good, and it's time for the American people to wake up out of our naivete and so forth. So this displacement, don't you go blaming God. Because I love it, don't you go blame. I mean, if we have been, and that's what's so much of going on now in politics, if you have in any way been disengaged, if you have not participated, of course it's convenient to now blame Trump. This did not come out of nowhere. This crisis we're in was the result of an accumulated layer upon layer that had more than anything to do with the fact that some of the best and the brightest America just figured somebody else would handle it. So we have to right things now. And every moment that once you've seen it, I remember I read a book once, was it called Less Than Zero? Bret Easton Ellis? Such a devastating book, such a completely devastating book. And after I read that book, I thought, I don't have to read one more book or one more newspaper article to know that I should live the rest of my life doing what I can. Because every moment that you're bemoaning that, you're not working on getting the people elected on November 6, 2018, that will represent a shift in direction. Now, that might not be specific to Syria, but to so much suffering in this country and on this planet that has to do with policies, economic policies, social policies, political policies, both domestically and internationally. So I think that's what we want to remember. God didn't do these things, people did these things. People did these things. And it's time to face the urgency of this moment. It's the 11th hour. It's not midnight yet. So just know that that's what the ego would displace it onto God. And the ego would have us bemoan it and once again, look at the crucifixion, but do not dwell on it. It's like there are many hours in the day. You cry and. So the fact that you could look at an article about Syria and look at those children and look at one of the pictures I saw was a man holding the little child with blood all over them. Yes, it makes you cry. You know, the other day I was in Oklahoma City and I was at the airport. And I went to the ladies' room and I came back from the ladies' room and I'd been in the cafe at the airport there. When I came back to the room, everybody in the cafe was standing up and everybody was looking out the window and nobody was saying a word. And what it was a plane that had landed. They put water over the plane. The hearse comes up. The military pallbearers were standing there. I had never seen it in person. The families in a shuttle. And they opened the thing, and the flag-draped coffin comes out. You saw the family get out of the shuttle. You saw the people going over to the coffin. Who knows where this soldier was? I don't know if it was a male or female. And everybody was just standing. There was not a beep. Everybody was silent. And I just cried and cried. A lot of people did. How could you not? That soldier had died wherever they had died and was coming back home to Oklahoma to be buried, and watching what I think must have been the mother crying at the casket. And then you get up when that's over. And it was interesting because then when the hearse drove away and the shuttle drove away and everybody sort of very quietly goes back, to their whatever they were doing in the cafe at the airport, but nobody was just chattering quickly. We go through those moments and they touch us, but they're important. We don't want to be people who wouldn't cry at that. You don't want to be a woman who wouldn't cry looking at those children in Syria. Only a sociopath doesn't. Only a sociopath, when people say, when you feel bad about something you did wrong and somebody says, oh, don't feel bad, only a sociopath has no remorse. One of the most powerful lines in the Bible, Jesus wept. And then you get up and dry your tears, and there are a lot of hours in the day, and you participate in a system, and that soldier is a perfect example. Does that make sense? We cry and it's part of your humanness. Okay, there was one more. Yes, sir. And then we're, okay.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
So nice to see you. I'm glad you're in New York. I used to listen to you years ago. In fact, I opened up my Course in Miracles, and out came a postcard of you speaking at the Universalist Church at 76th Street. So I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you. I love some of those old pictures. I put them on my Instagram.
Well, you still look great.
Thank you so much.
So I won't say how many years ago, but
If you could say, I started in the 80s at
1989, yeah. So I'm an actor, and I'm sort of back in the business. I take a lot of breaks because it gets very difficult. And, I'm under the philosophy of the law of attraction and manifesting your desires. So I'm beginning now, after been listening to you for the last year here and on live stream, to see it as the spiritual mountaintop and let go of my desire and say, God, okay, what am I supposed to do?
Right.
But recently I was up for a job and I was like this close and I really wanted it and I didn't get it. So there's a lot of disappointment in the business for me, but I know that I'm supposed to do it.
Right.
So how do I go about letting go of what I think? Like you said, a man should own what he wants.
Right.
So I've always been a man like that.
Right.
But for me to let go and say, okay, that job wasn't meant to be, and where do I go today? Who am I supposed to see? What am I supposed to do?
Okay.
I know what auditions I have to go to, and I know what jobs I want.
Okay, I got it. Okay, so first of all, in terms of the first thing he was talking about, that you can make your dreams come true is not, or you can manifest your desires is not the spiritual mountaintop. The Course in Miracles talks about the difference between miracles and magic. Magic is where basically you treat God like your errand boy. You use metaphysical principles. I can have this, and I can have this, and I can have this, and I can have this. It's not that it's bad. It's just that it's not the mountaintop. Miracles are, God, how can I serve you? Now, this is the deal. You want to make happen what you want to make happen because you think that would make you happy. The purpose of your life is to be happy. God wants you to be happy because God wants you to be in the place that's what enlightenment is. So there is already a path for your happiness. Remember when we say, dear God, where would you have me go? What would you have me do? It's not a path of sacrifice. It's a way of saying, what is my ultimate happiness? Now, this is the deal. Dear God, I have a desire in my heart. This is you. I'm not putting words in your mouth, but principles. Dear God, I think you want me to be an actor because this desire has been in my heart. And I know that great acting, whether it's Meryl Streep or Laurence Olivier or Robert De Niro or anybody, when it is at its peak, uplifts the energy. It is a great art. And I know, dear God, that great art is a service to the planet. And I know, dear God, that each of us has potential beyond anything, as the Course says, those who have achieved the most have achieved a fraction of what all of us are capable of. And the Course in Miracles says, one day all the gifts of God will be shared by all. So all the power in Laurence Olivier, all the power in Robert De Niro, all the power in whatever great actor you can think of, might be your favorites. Whatever that spirit is, dear God, please remove any barriers to my aligning so much with that genius that is you, dear God. May I, as a man, be an actor. May I somehow catch that. Dear God, whatever barriers that keep me from just so that when I say a line, when I'm even listening, the look on my face, let that genius, acting genius, dear God, if it would serve you, dear God, for me to be a channel for that genius, may it be so. Honey, don't make it about you. Don't make it about you. Make it about how, if we know that acting is a great art, it is a great art, it's a high art. When somebody does that acting thing incredible, it's like great painting, great music, it like uplifts. Moses, God said to Moses, tell them I will make of you a priestly people. And the Israelites in the Old Testament symbolize humanity. We are to be a priestly people. If I'm a doctor, if I'm a lawyer, if I'm a scientist, if whatever I am, may I hold the energy of that so high that the entire world is served. You lift it above the turbulence of being an actor in New York, an actor trying to make it in Hollywood. It's such low, dense energy. The genius can't get through. Make it, may I, if acting is what you want me to be, dear God, then I make myself available. Use me. Report back.
I will, thank you.
That makes sense to you, sir?
Yes.
Right. You want to always uplift above that, the world's interpretation. The world's interpretation, an actor going to an audition. It's a low-level picturing of what's really happening. That's just the realm of the body. But what is beyond that? What is beyond that is that the Holy Spirit sends every person where they can best be used to uplift the energy. Beauty uplifts energy. Whether you're a mother or a father, sister, brother, lover, friend, a musician, a designer, whatever you do, that you are there to be the hands and the feet, and just be, you're the faucet, you're not the water. And it can't not come through. He says in the Course in Miracles, do not be concerned about your own readiness, but keep a consistent awareness of mine. And just put yourself in that position, alignment, and then it just comes through you. Does that make sense? Okay, before we say the final prayer, I just want to say thank you. It was an honor to be with you here tonight. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. And we will be here in New York 2 weeks from tonight, March 20th. We will be back here in New York. And remember, all of you, the live streams continue. And thank you so much. Let's pray. Dear God, before we leave each other's presence tonight, we wish each other well. And we pray for everyone watching and everyone who is in this room with us. Dear God, may others receive every miracle that their heart desires, that we too might be blessed and healed. We pray for Randy Grimm, for Debo, for Brian, for Chad, for Diane, for the Nearing family, for Nancy, for Dylan, for Yogesh, for Uncle Ted, for Annette, and for Christina. All of us place into the hands of God our burdens, our fears, our hopes, and our tears. We place every person and every situation that we care about in your hands, dear God. May we be the people that you would have us be, that we might do as you would have us do. And now go forth in confidence and go forth in peace.
For there are angels to your left and there are angels to your right. There are angels in front of you and angels behind you. There are angels above you and angels below. There is a path of light already paved, unfolding in front of you. And every moment, seek to stand in this light. And in any moment of confusion or doubt, put out your hand in front of you, as would a small child, looking for the guidance of an elder brother. And that elder brother shall take your hand, lead you back onto the path, and should you request it, remain with you there. This is no idle fantasy. He is here. And so it is. Sending our love and blessings to all the world. Together, we say, amen. Thank you, everybody. God bless you.